All right, well, good evening all. My name is Tammy Sander. I work with the Hamilton County Health Department. I'm joined tonight by the pair of experts from the Hamilton County Health Department, as well as the Hamilton County Public Safety Communications, or 911 as they're more commonly known. Tonight's webinar is the sixth in a series of monthly webinars geared toward children's health. And we are hosting an array of topics, everything from the importance of blood testing, to teen dating violence, to tips on talking to your kids about vaping and back to school immunizations. These webinars are part of a larger effort to reach out to parents and caregivers about the important decisions that they need to make in taking care of the kiddos under their charge. So we'll feature a full list of those webinar topics and dates at the end of this session. But first, I want to introduce you to tonight's panel. Jim Gander is a health education specialist for the Hamilton County Health Department. If your kids go to school here in Hamilton County, there's a good chance they know Jim. There are a lot. He teaches all sorts of health-related topics, including first aid, self-aid, and of course CPR, which we're covering here tonight. Carrie Key is the Quality Assurance Coordinator and Peer Support Coordinator with Hamilton County Public Safety Communications. She has over 15 years of experience in public safety communications with training in police and fire radio call taking. She is also a basic life support instructor through the American Heart Association. Tonight, we'll cover the gamut of topics related to child and infant CPR, starting with exactly what CPR is and when you need to administer it. We'll talk about some of the more common reasons for children to need CPR, including choking, and how you can best help a child during a choking episode. We'll also talk about the differences between adult, child, and infant CPR and how to perform each, as well as when and how to use an AED on a child. Carrie, I'm going to let you start with the most obvious question. What exactly is CPR and how important is it to know?
So CPR is cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and it's an emergency life-saving procedure that is used when the heart stops beating. So it's going to help circulate the blood throughout the body and keep the patient alive until we can get higher medical care on scene or to the hospital. So as a lot of us know, most cardiac arrests are going to occur out of the hospital, and so it's important that we know how to do CPR so we can provide help until EMS arrives on scene. If we get CPR started immediately, the patient's chance of survival can double or even triple. So these are just a few examples that can lead to cardiac arrest in a child. A lot of times we don't think about emergencies such as this in young children, but there are underlying medical conditions or other traumas such as drowning, traumatic injuries. Choking would be another example. Most of us have heard of SIDS, and then also severe allergic reaction. So a child that is choking, if they're awake, we're going to provide a different level of care, but at the point that they become unresponsive is when we're going to transition to CPR. You did, that's okay. So when do we want to call 911? Any signs of choking, you want to call 911 immediately, and so we can get help started to you. And so if the patient's turning blue, if they're weak or in a cough, there's the universal choking sign as well, or if they're panic confused, or you just suspect that there is something lodged preventing them from breathing.
Jim, let's bring you back in here. Many
Sure.
Which is great on adults and older children, but not on infants. Can you walk us through the different ways to dislodge an object in a child as opposed to an infant?
Sure, very much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on the floor here so what we're going to do first is we're going to go through the slide. Then I'm actually going to show you on the mannequin as well too, but I'm going to get on the floor first so we can go right into choking as well too. So the first thing what you want to do, as you notice on your screen, is you're going to get behind the child. And it's really important if your child is smaller that you get them on the you get on the floor and you have them and you get behind them and they stand up against you as well too. So you got to get on the floor with them as well too. And it's really easy. When I teach CPR, what you're going to do is you're going to take your pinky and your thumb, find their navel, and then you're going to go right up to the tip of the sternum. That's where you're going to go. Then just like when you dip in ice cream, you use the kind of this maneuver, like in and up. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to go in and up as hard as you can until the object comes out as well, or until that person goes unconscious as well. And our goal is to get whatever they're choked on up and out of there as quick as possible. So you need to do this as many times as you can and as hard as you can until this object comes out. And it's also really important that if you do dislodge that object, that you make sure somebody calls 911, because those little ones need to be checked out by EMS after the abdominal thrust has been given. So let's talk about babies. Babies are a little bit different. One of the big things, as you can see on your screen, is we're going to flip babies over. But something that's really important, and I'll show you this here in just a second, you've got to support the baby's head when you do this. Because we know our little ones, especially our infants, and we consider a baby through the Heart Association birth to one, that they don't have any muscle mass or muscle control in their head. So you really have to control their head. And if you notice on the slide, what we're going to do is we're basically going to sandwich the baby. We're going to flip them over, and you need their head as low as you can get them. And usually with a baby, it's better to do this either you sitting down and laying the baby on your leg, or if you can somehow maybe put them on a bar stool or something to do this. So you're going to flip the baby over. You're going to go 5 back blows between the shoulder blades. Then you're going to flip them over, and again, as she says, get their head as low as we can and find their nipple line, and you're going to give 5 chest thrusts like you will in CPR. And we'll actually talk about that here in just a second as well. And again, you're going to do this until the object comes out or until they go unconscious. And something to remember with babies is a lot of times babies put lots of stuff in their mouth. So again, this may take a little bit longer to dislodge the object as well.
So it's one thing to see it on the slide, another thing entirely to see it administered. Can you show us the difference?
Sure, exactly. So we're going to pretend that this is, let's say, a 3-year-old, all right? As I said, I'm going to get on my knees, right? Because we don't want that 3-year-old not to be touching the floor. So we got to get them on the floor. So they're going to be standing in front of me. Their hands are going to be around their neck. But here's something you also need to understand. If they're coughing, let them cough. We're going to encourage them to cough because we want them to get up and out of there themselves. What we're going to do is when we need to intervene is when they're turning blue or cyanotic, or they stop coughing. So then that's when we're going to do something. So what I would do is I would have someone go call 911. Then again, this is going to be our 3-year-old. I'm going to get behind my 3-year-old, find the navel and the tip of the sternum, which is here. Then I'm going to put my fist right between and in and up as hard as I can until the object comes out as well too. So we're going to do that until the object comes out. If the person goes unconscious, when you call 911, our 911 dispatcher is going to walk you through what happens if that person goes unconscious as well too. So that's our child. So that's what we're going to do for the child as well too. If you have a child that's in a wheelchair that's choking, you're going to keep them in the wheelchair. If they're conscious, you're going to get behind them and go around them like where their nipple line would be. You're going to pull back as hard as you can until that piece of food comes out, or they go unconscious. And if they go unconscious, we're going to get them out of the wheelchair and get them on the floor as well too. So now we're going to do baby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So here's my baby. So we're going to say this is a 5-month-old, right? And let's say the baby's choking unconscious. So as I mentioned, we got to support the baby's head. So when I teach CPR, I tell people to use their thumb and first finger, because if you notice, it's like a web, and the chin will fit right into it. Okay, you're going to hold the baby's head. You're going to flip the baby over on your leg and get the baby's head as low as you can get. Then you're going to go your 5 back blows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you're going to support baby's head, flip them over, and get as low as you can and 5 chest thrusts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there, she's still conscious. We're going to flip her back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then if she goes unresponsive, you're going to lay her on the floor and start CPR. And our 911 dispatcher friends can walk you through how to do CPR as well.
I have a message here from Ashley. She
Sure.
says they're getting an echo. Ashley, I wanted to check and see if you're still getting that echo. or if we were able to fix that. I'm going to keep us moving while I wait to get a response. All right, let's go back to that then. So we've covered that. Jim, let's say the child stops breathing. That's when we're going to call 911.
Correct.
We're going to start CPR.
Correct.
Walk us through some of the important differences between administering CPR to an adult versus a child.
Sure. That's a great question. So with adults, most adults go into cardiac arrest because they're in a funky heart rhythm and they need an AED there as soon as possible. Most kids and infants go into cardiac arrest because of respiratory issues. So with adults, we want to call 911 first. With kids, what we want to do is we want to do that CPR for 2 minutes. Then after that 2 minutes, then we either have somebody go call 911 or we whip out our cell phone and we call 911 ourselves as well too, because we got to get that oxygen back into those little ones because their brain need that. We're adults. Adults need to be defibrillated to get them out of those 2 different heart rhythms as well too.
Okay, so make sure that we're hearing you right on this. If this happens with an adult, we need to try to call 911.
Correct, because you got to get that AED there as soon as possible.
We don't have time to waste with kids. We need to go ahead and launch into it.
Correct.
Okay. Here's another important difference that we talked about: the two-handed.
Hand-only CPR. Yep. Very much so. So.
For kids or no?
So with kids, what happens is, again, with hands-only CPR, they've taken the breath out of that one as well. So with kids and babies, it's really important that we actually give those rescue breaths. So when you do CPR for an adult, you do, with hands-only CPR, you just do chest compressions only and you skip the breaths. But for kids and infants, you'll see here in a second, we do 30 compressions to 2 breaths 5 times. So we're going to add those breaths back in for our children and our infants as well too. And one thing I will mention, that don't be upset if when you do CPR on a child or a baby, even adults, if the person does throw up. That happens all the time. If they do, what you're going to do is you're going to flip them to their side, scoop out the vomit or their cottage cheese or whatever that they vomited, and roll them back over. And just remember, even if you've taken CPR before, our 911 dispatch friends are going to walk you through everything as well.
Let's walk through that rescue breathing a little bit. Carrie, do you want to show us the proper way to do that? Because there's right and wrong. We've got this slide up. I want to have you run through that, and I would love if you would demonstrate it for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the big thing is, like Jim said, you want to have the patient flat on their back on the ground. We don't want them on a bed. We don't want them on the table. We need them flat on the ground. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our hand on their forehead and our other hand under their chin and gently lift their chin back. It's called the head tilt chin lift. When you do call 911, sometimes we'll give you different instructions, and that is to put one hand under the neck and one hand on the forehead. And there's a lot of research that goes into the wording that we use in 911 to make sure we're doing this correctly and that we are relaying information as we want to. And so sometimes there's a little bit of differences between the training you'll receive in an in-person class versus the instructions you receive from 911. Follow what 911 tells you, but trust your training as well. And so once we have the head tilted and chin lifted, we're going to pinch their nose closed, and then we're going to put our mouth over their mouth, make sure that there's a tight seal, and then we're going to take a breath, and we're going to blow for 1 second into the child's mouth, looking for that chest to rise. That's going to let us know that the air has effectively gotten through to the child. It's the same process for the baby. With the baby, though, if you cannot get their nose pinched because they're a tiny baby, you can put your mouth completely over their mouth and nose if need be.
Okay, so let's actually see you do it.
So I actually did not prep our mannequins to blow in them for germ's sake. So we will not be demonstrating mouth to mouth today, just so that we don't pass germs amongst Jim and myself. Yes. Yes.
All right, so let's put this all together. We've determined the child's unresponsive. It's breathing and or doesn't have a pulse. Jim, can you walk us through what's next?
Sure. So I come up and let's say that we have a child laying on the ground. So there's a child. So I come up and I see this child laying on the ground. The first thing I need to do is make sure that the scene is safe. All right. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shake and shout, "Hey, are you okay? Are you okay?" And let's say this is a 4-year-old and he's unresponsive. If Carrie's with me, I'm going to have them call 911. If I'm by myself, I'm going to go ahead and start CPR for 2 minutes. Then I'm going to go ahead and call 911. But with our ability to have cell phones, I can throw my cell phone down real quick and call 911 and put on speakerphone. So number one, the scene is safe, right? I'm going to shake and shout, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? He's unresponsive. Since Carrie's with me, Carrie, call 911 and get the AED. So then I'm going to open the airway, look, listen, and feel for 5 to 10 seconds. Okay, he's not breathing, so I'm going to start chest compressions. So with a child and an infant, we're going to go 30 compressions, 2 breaths, 5 times. And some of you probably have heard the songs that you can do, like Staying Alive, Another One Bites the Dust. I know Tammy's favorite is Baby Shark. So there's different songs out there that you can kind of think to yourself as you're doing CPR. So I'm just going to do a cycle for you to see what it looks like. So again, I made sure the scene was safe. They're unresponsive. I've had Carrie, who's with me, call 911 and I've checked for breathing. They're not breathing. So we're going to go ahead and start chest compressions. So I'm going to put one hand in the center of the chest and we're going to start compressions. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Get my 2 breaths. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
So those of you watching, I don't know if you can see, but Jim is making sure to let the chest come all the way back up between each pump. He's not removing his hands from the chest, but he is making sure that we get full recoil to make sure we're getting blood fully pumping through the entire system.
I see Jim using both hands. At what age should you only use one hand? And I know there's a difference as well.
So for a child, you can use 1 or 2 hands. It's really based on, to a certain extent, your strength and your comfortability and also the child's size. So if you have a younger child, more than likely you're going to have 1 hand. As that child gets older, you may need 2 in order to get the compressions to the right depth. So as long as we're getting the compressions to the depth 2 inches for a child, then we're okay to use 1 or 2 hands. For an infant, you're going to want to use 2 fingers or 2 thumbs, depending on the child.
And we're not going to go as deep, correct? It just changed the slide. It says 1.5 inches.
Correct. For an infant, we're going to go 1.5, and then for a child, we're going to go 2 inches. A child is the same as adult, 2 inches.
Okay. Let's try this. Then let's do a little role playing. Carrie is going to listen to the role of a 911 dispatcher. Since that's what she does, but it's appropriate. And Jim is going to pretend he has come across a child that has stopped breathing. Let's see what happens when he calls 911. And we're pretending now Jim doesn't know how to administer CPR. He does. So yeah, shoot.
So as Tammy said, I come up and I see this kid, let's say it's a drowning situation. Somebody pulled this kid out of the pool. It's a family pool. Nobody knows CPR. So I'm going to come up, make sure the scene is safe. Hey, are you okay? Okay. He's not okay. So I'm going to tell somebody to go ahead and start CPR while I call 911.
All right, 911, what is the location of your...
Can you help me? There's a 4-year-old who's unresponsive. They just pulled him out of a pool.
Yes, what's the location that you're at?
19268 Links Lane.
All right, that is verified. What's the phone number you're calling me from?
317-776-8500.
All right, that is verified as well. I need you to tell me exactly what happened. I understand you said there's a 4-year-old that was pulled out of the pool.
So my neighbor was in their back pool and I heard him scream and I ran over and my neighbor is doing CPR on their 4-year-old.
All right, I'm going to get help started to you. Stay right here on the line with me. Are you with the patient now?
I am.
And is the patient male or female?
Male.
Is he awake?
No.
Is he breathing?
No. My neighbor's doing chest compressions.
All right. Give me just 1 second while we get help started to you. I am sending paramedics to help you now. Stay on line. I'll tell you exactly what to do next. If there's a defibrillator available, send somebody to get it now in case we need it later, and let me know when you have that, okay?
Okay,
Are you right by him now?
I am. My neighbor's doing CPR.
Listen carefully. I'm going to give you instructions to make sure your neighbor's doing it correctly. I want you to lay him flat on his back on the ground and remove anything under his head.
Okay.
Kneel next to him and look in his mouth for food or vomit.
Nothing.
Is there anything in his mouth?
No.
All right, I'm going to tell you how to give mouth to mouth. Place your hand on his forehead, your other hand under his neck, then carefully tilt the head back. Pinch his nose closed and completely cover his mouth with your mouth. Then blow 2 regular breaths into the lungs, about 1 second each, just enough to make the chest rise with each breath.
Okay.
Did you feel the air going in and out?
Yes.
All right, listen carefully. I'll tell you how to do chest compressions. I want you to make sure he's flat on his back on the ground. Place the heel of your hand on the breastbone in the center of the chest, right between the nipples. Push down about 2 inches with only the heel of one hand touching the chest. Pump the chest hard and fast 30 times, at least twice per second. Let the chest come all the way up between pumps. I want you to count out loud so I can count with you. Let's go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
Okay, with your hand under his neck, pinch his nose closed and carefully tilt his head back again. Give 2 more regular breaths, then pump the chest 30 more times. Make sure the heel of your hand is on the breastbone in the center of the chest, right between the nipples.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
All right, do you understand me so far?
Yes.
Okay, from now on, give him 2 breaths and 30 pumps, 2 breaths and 30 pumps. Keep doing it until help can take over. Tell me when help is right there with him. If anything changes, tell me immediately.
There's an officer that just showed up.
All right. Have they taken over CPR?
They have.
Okay, we can stop now.
All right. Wow, it's intense. It looks exhausting. Is it exhausting?
It is very much so. That's the reason why it's really important when you do CPR that if somebody can take over for you after your 5 cycles, you really need to have somebody take over for you, because the more you do compressions, the worse your compressions are.
That's good to know. So, I noticed, Carrie, you didn't ask them if they wanted to perform CPR. You just gave instructions.
That's correct. When someone calls 911, we assume that that's an indicator that they want our assistance. So we're going to immediately go into providing life-saving instructions. And in this case, it would be CPR. If somebody is in a position where they are unable to do so, would not like to do so, if they refuse, that is obviously their choice. But we are going to proceed as though they are able and willing, unless we are given information otherwise.
I mean, some reasons people give you for not wanting to do it. Why would anybody be reluctant to do it?
I think each person the situation in their own medical situation. So for instance, if we have somebody that maybe isn't as good health, elderly in a wheelchair, they may not be in a position to get on the ground and provide CPR without putting themselves in danger. But one of the things Jim and I talk about when we teach CPR together is it's still important for you to know how to do CPR, because you can then coach somebody else with you through how to do CPR. So there's just a various reasons, but that would be one of those, is that maybe you physically can't due to your own health.
I've heard some people express a concern that they're worried they're going to hurt the person. What would you say to that?
So, and that's a great question. I get that a lot. And here's the thing: we can fix anything that happens to them. So, example that I do a lot when I teach CPR is I let people know that you're probably going to break the cartilage that's in the sternum. That's okay. We can fix that. It's not a big deal. So things that happen during CPR, we can fix very easily. As you noticed that, so this is an adult mannequin. You need to understand that adults, it takes a lot of pressure to compress that chest compared to a child or an infant, because you need to think about the adult's bones have already calcified, where a child may be a little bit easier to do chest compressions, and a baby, their bones are still made out of cartilage. So baby gives a lot easier than an adult does. So it's very uncommon to break that cartilage in a baby or child, but an adult, that's going to happen. And when I teach CPR, one of the things I tell people is it sounds like when you were little and you had Rice Krispies and you put milk on the Rice Krispies and it made that snap, crackle, pop. It's just part of it. Just keep on going.
Okay, so can we try this again, this time on the inside?
Sure.
See what that looks like out a little bit.
Let me turn the baby on here. Okay.
Okay, you come across this baby not breathing.
Okay.
You're gonna call 911, you're gonna hit Terry.
Okay. So let's say that I'm at Walmart, okay, or Target or somewhere, and this baby is in the shopping cart and the mom's panicking, and I walk up. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure the scene is safe, right? I'm going to take the baby. Let's say the baby is 4 months old. I'm going to take the baby out of its baby carrier, lay the baby on the floor. I'm going to either have mom call 911 or I'm going to call 911. So I'm going to tap the baby's foot. Baby, you okay? You okay? She's not okay. Then I'm going to tell mom or somebody who's around me to call 911. All right. So I'm going to pretend that somebody's there doing CPR. So I'm going to call 911.
911 was the address of your emergency.
18030 Foundation Drive.
Okay, it's verified. What's the phone number you're calling from?
317-776-8501.
Okay, that's also verified. Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
I'm here at Walmart, and there's a baby who's unresponsive laying on the floor. And there's mom and the bystanders doing CPR.
Okay. Are you with the patient now?
I am.
And how old is the patient?
Let's say 2 months.
Is the patient male or female?
Female.
And is she awake?
No.
Is she breathing?
No.
All right, I'm sending paramedics to help you now. I want you to stay on the line. I want you to listen carefully. Are you right by the baby now?
I am.
Listen carefully, lay the baby flat on her back on the floor and remove anything under her head. Kneel next to the baby and look in the mouth for food or vomit. Is there anything in the mouth?
Nothing.
All right, I'm going to tell you how to give mouth to mouth. Place your hand on the baby's forehead, your other hand under the baby's neck and shoulders, then slightly tilt the head back. Completely cover the baby's mouth and nose with your mouth. Then blow 2 puffs of air into the lungs, about 1 second each, just enough to make the chest rise with each breath. Did you feel the air going in and out?
Yes.
Listen carefully. I'm going to tell you how to do chest compressions. I want you to make sure the baby is flat on her back on the floor. Place 2 fingers on the breastbone in the center of the chest, right between the nipples. You understand me so far?
Yes.
All right, press down about 1.5 inches with only your fingers touching the chest. Pump the chest hard and fast 30 times, at least twice per second. Let the chest come all the way up between pumps. I want you to count out loud so I can count with you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
With your hand under her neck and shoulders, slightly tilt her head back again. Put your mouth over her nose and mouth. Now give 2 more puffs and then pump the chest 30 more times. Make sure your fingers are on the breastbone in the center of the chest, right between the nipples. You understand me so far?
Yes.
All right. You're doing a great job. Keep going until help can take
9,
over.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
All right. From now, make sure you're giving the baby 2 puffs, then 30 pumps. 2 puffs, then 30 pumps.
Law enforcement just got here.
All right. Keep doing it until they take over. Let me know when they're right with her.
They're here.
All right.
All right.
You can stop.
stop.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Harry, I gotta ask you, it's interesting to sit and watch this because I'm just imagining the chaos that you would be feeling if you're Jim, who has come across this infant. You are so calm and I don't want to say slow, it's measured, right? Like, it must be incredibly difficult to get those phone calls in because the situation is so crazy. And is that what, I mean, your training obviously keeps you that, are you always that calm?
So yes, we obviously feel for those going through emergencies, especially when there's children involved. Many of our dispatchers have children of their own, nieces, nephews, other family members. And that goes for adult and children, but I think we all feel it a little more deeply when it's a child involved. Our dispatchers here in Hamilton County are very highly trained, and we spend a lot of time training and practicing scenarios so that way we are kind of calm in that chaos. because the calmer we are, the calmer that's going to instill in our callers who are now task focused and providing that care. And so a lot of times we can get them focused on the task at hand, and that also helps keep them calm until help can arrive to take over. Obviously, this was a controlled setting, so Jim was a lot more calm than what we initially see on that initial call, but it would not be completely out of possibility, or I would even say uncommon. I don't have the data to support this necessarily other than just my experience, but once we get into providing CPR, that Jim would kind of calm down based on my calm demeanor, and that he has a task to keep him occupied and focused, and he knows who's providing the best care possible.
Yeah, really interesting. So Jim, it looks like the biggest difference in CPR between adults, kids, infants is the depth of the compressions and hand placement and or fingers, including the beats per minute being all the same. Can you kind of take this slide here and walk us through the differences?
Exactly. So if you look at the slide there, we talk about the adults, right? As I said earlier, most adults go into cardiac arrest because of some funky heart rhythms, VFib or VTAC, and those individuals need the AED there as soon as possible. Or as we talked about earlier, our children, infants, we see more of them going into respiratory arrest. And you can see with the adults, our first thing is not to give breath. Our first thing with the adult is to start chest compressions. And also with our children, we want to start chest compressions as well too. And you saw me giving 2 breaths because I was instructed by our dispatch center to go ahead and give 2 breaths. But when you take a CPR class, what's going to happen is we are going to have you do the breaths after we start chest compressions as well. So that's called the CAB technique that the Heart Association released in 2020. And you can see that hand position with the child is a little bit different for the adult as well too. But also with our baby as well too, we know our depth is a little bit different than our child as well too, and we're going to use those 2 fingers as well too.
All right, you alluded to it, so we're going to put you to the test. It doesn't matter whatever your favorite kind of music is. There's a song that has 100 to 120 beats per minute to help with compression rate. And it's just a good thing to kind of do in your head if you don't have Gary's help counting you through. So let's see how you do with these songs that have.
Which one are you going to give me?
you're going to have to guess. Okay, here we go. All right.
Hey, girl. Come on now.
That was actually remarkable. I think to me sound like very different songs, but you can find that similar beat between them.
There's like 200 different songs out there that the Heart Association has put on
Yes,
the
and
website.
so if you guys ever want those, the Heart
And
Association
that
is a
should be my
fabulous.
4 cycles that I just completed as well too.
And he's
so.
winded. I will note that it's so Carrie. I was gonna say it looks exhausting, so you want to kind of keep doing CPR as long as you can. Ideally, there would be someone else there with you so you can get a break.
Yes, ideally, you're going to have somebody that can take over. Obviously, we don't know who's going to be with us. We may be alone with one other person, and then in those instances, we're going to have to continue CPR. Short of having our own medical situation where we need to stop, but we're going to need to continue CPR until the first responders are able to take over. The other instances we would stop CPR is if the patient begins breathing, if responders are on scene, or if the patient becomes conscious. You'll see on the slides here, it talks about if an AED is located. So we don't want to stop
at the moment we locate the AED, we do want to get the AED to the patient, get it connected, and then at the point that the AED advises us that it's analyzing rhythm, at that point we need to stop CPR, and so the AED can analyze to advise whether or not it's appropriate for a shock.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and move into the screen? Let's talk about AEDs. Carrie, you mind?
Yeah.
Stand right there behind Jim, and let's talk a little bit about AEDs, because I always thought this was an adults thing, but it's not.
No, it's not. So AEDs can be used for adults or children. It's the automated external defibrillator. And you'll see these throughout businesses, churches, schools. Some people even have them in their home. They're not necessarily cheap, but they are cost affordable if you have some sort of underlying medical condition that would necessitate having one. The AED, when you open it or turn it on, they will prompt you with instructions to walk you through applying the AED.
These are the AEDs that we have throughout the county, and as Carrie said, you just open the lid, and it's going to tell you exactly what you need to do. In summer, we're doing CPR as we're doing a self-check.
Stay calm. Follow these instructions.
So again, you're going to follow all the prompts that the AED tells you as well too. So something about AED is you can use an AED on a child or an infant. Usually most AEDs have pediatric pads as well. If you don't have pediatric pads when you're AED, that's cool. You can use adult pads. And the difference is for a child or an infant, what you're going to do is the pads are going to go a little bit different. So with adults, we go a pad on the clavicle and on the armpit. So if it's a baby or a child, we're going to go the center of the chest and in the back as well too. Just remember, you cannot use kid pads on the adults. You can only use kid pads for kids as well too. But you can use adult pads on adults, kids and babies as well too.
And so this thing's going to tell us exactly what we need to do.
Exactly.
We don't even need Carrie or someone from 911 to tell us.
Well, they will call 911. They're going to ask you, is there an AED there? And they're going to go have somebody go get it. Then what will happen is if there's an AED there, they can prompt you how to use the AED. I think Karen and I are going to do a scenario here in just a second to kind of show you how the AED interacts with this child.
Yeah,
So one of the things we're going to do from the 911 perspective, because there are different models of AED, we're going to be listening closely to those prompts. So we have instructions that we can provide. But it's really important that we also are listening for those prompts. So that's where having your phone on speakerphone, so we can make sure that we're following exactly what needs to happen at each step of the way.
What's better, CPR or an AED? What would your preference be if someone was in a situation and waiting for medics?
I think that's a great question, because if it's an adult, we definitely need to get the AED there as well too. And again, a lot of kids are in respiratory rest. So anytime there's an AED there, I don't care if it's an adult, kid, an infant, go ahead and put the AED on, because if the AED says no shock advised, it's going to prompt you to either check the patient or to start chest compressions for another 2 minutes.
Okay. All right, let's run through a scenario. What do you've got a child here?
So yeah, so let's say that this is we'll say that this is a 6-year-old, and we're at the store, and I'm with Carrie. And this 6-year-old laying on the ground, mom's panicking, all that stuff. Mom's called 911, so I come up and I make sure that this seems safe. And again, mom's on the phone 911. So it is unresponsive. The scene is safe. I shake out, you okay? He's unresponsive. Then I'm going to go ahead and start chest compressions. And Carrie is going to bring up the AED. And Carrie's actually going to be running the AED. So I'm going to start my compressions.
Normally, I would go on the other side of the patient, but we're mindful that we want to be able to see what we're doing. So I'm going to come up next to Jim for this scenario. So first thing I need to do is turn the AED on. This one turns on by opening it.
26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
Stay calm. Follow these instructions. Make sure emergency services are called now. Begin by exposing patient's bare chest.
21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29,
When
30.
patient's chest is bare, remove the white square package from lid of AED. Tear open white package across dotted line and remove pads. Peel one of the white pads completely from blue plastic. Peel one of the white pads completely from blue plastic. Begin pulling from the tabbed corner. Firmly place the pad without the blue plastic on patient's bare chest, exactly as shown on pads.
All right, so we've got the pads here.
This pad can be placed on either of the two locations as shown on pads. Next, peel second white pad from the blue plastic. Firmly place the second pad on the other location exactly as shown on pads.
17, 18, 19, 20,
Firmly place the second pad on the other location exactly as shown on pads.
29, 30.
Do not touch the patient. Analyzing heart
So I'm going to make sure that I'm not touching the patient and that everybody's clear.
Do not touch the patient.
So again, we're going to make sure no one's touching.
2, 1. Shock delivered. It is now safe to touch the patient. Give 30 rapid compressions.
So he's still not breathing. I'm going to continue chest compressions for 2 more minutes.
Place heel of one hand on center of chest between nipples.
So, yep. So I'm going to do CPR for 2 more minutes, and the AD is going to pop back on and tell me to stop, and it's going to reanalyze. So at this point, since I've already done my 4 cycles, I'm going to flip with Carrie so she can take over and do 4 more cycles.
Why is it so important not to touch that patient when that's happening?
That's a great question. So if I'm doing chest compressions or my leg is touching the person while the AD is analyzing, it's going to pick me up and you're going to get a no shock advice. So then you have to do CPR for 2 more minutes. Then also it's really important that if the AD is ready to give that shock, that make sure everybody's standing back, because if I'm touching the person and the AD shocks, I could get shocked as well. And that could kick me into cardiac arrest.
Yeah, so there are a couple of different ADs that you may find out in the community. There's automatic and semi-automatic. And so with the one, it's not going to shock unless you actually hit the button, which you saw on this AD. So if it's a shock advice and we're not pushing the button, it's not going to shock the patient. It may just have us continue into CPR until it's time to analyze the rhythm again. However, there's the automatic ones, and whether you're ready or not, if it's shock advice, it's going to shock the patient. So it's really important you know what kind of AD you have, and if it says to not touch the patient, that we're getting off the patient so we don't accidentally get shocked as well.
Okay, and I see, Jim, what would this look like? How would this be different if it was an infant? Because you mentioned that you could use these
Yep.
pads.
Before we move on, I just wanted to say some of the stuff, you may think that this it goes pretty slow. It kind of does because this is a trainer. But when you use a real AED, it skips a lot of this stuff. And once the pads go on, it goes right into the analyze phase. So this is a trainer. So it's going to go step by step. But again, a real AED, once you got the pads on and the AED's turned off, it's going to go right into its analyze phase. So with an infant, as you talked about, what we're going to do is, since we don't have PEDS pads, so what we're going to do is we're going to go anterior, posterior. So if I'm doing CPR, I'm going to stop for a second while Carrie gets her pads on. I'm going to continue, and we're going to roll the baby over real quick and get the pads on, and I'm going to continue chest compressions.
That's interesting. It's so big.
It is.
It's not going to.
It's not going to hurt the baby at all. So, and again, just remember that kids and infants go into cardiac arrest because of respiratory arrest. But we do have some kids out there that have some heart issues as well too, which they may need to be shocked as well too.
If anyone out there has questions, we're getting close to the end of our presentation. We would welcome you to put those questions in the chat so we can help answer it. We go back to our presentation here real quick. You did mention you can use adult pads for kids 8 years and older, but we're just applying them differently. Here again is what that looks like.
Correct. And most AEDs do have child pads, so those pads would be specific for our kids and our babies as well too.
So something I find important to mention anytime we teach is if you are part of a community group, church, school, business, these pads do expire. And so you're going to want to make sure you check that expiration and replace them. A lot of times people think to replace the batteries for the AED, but the pads also expire.
And I will tell you with the new AEDs, if the pads expire, the unit won't work. So you just have to make sure that the pads have not expired, because you go to look at it and it's fine, but when you go to use it and the pads have expired, the AED is not going to work.
All right, so this has been a lot. 45 minutes of just like, you know, information. We want to make sure that people understand this does not make them, by any means, doesn't make them CPR certified, but there is a way to get CPR certified. You guys actually have a class you're going to
Do
teach.
you want to talk about the class?
Yeah, so, we did a brief demonstration here. Jim got a good workout providing multiple rounds of CPR. I think I got the easy side of this. But the reality is that, if you do call 911, a lot of people will say, why do I need certified CPR if I call 911 and give instructions? And that is a great point. But I will tell you, it's a lot easier for us to help remind you how to do CPR than to teach for the first time in an emergency situation over the phone. Obviously, we can and we will do that, but we encourage everybody to take a CPR class if you're able. So Jim and I will be teaching one on July 25th. It's from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and it's at the campus of the Sheriff's Office, which is at the Juvenile Services Center. And the address is right there on your screen. We do need you to register, and that's so that we can make sure we're prepped appropriately for the class with the appropriate amount of supplies, mannequins, etc. There's a minimal fee for the book, which you can order through the link. And then the class itself is free. If you need a certification card for your employer, volunteer organization, any of those things, there is a small fee for that card, which would be invoiced after the class.
But if you don't need a card and you just want to come and learn CPR, you're more welcome to come and join us.
Yep, and there's no cost for that.
If they can't make that particular meeting, there are other ways to get certified. Tell us about those.
Go ahead.
So you can go through any of these organizations. We're certified through the American Heart Association. Red Cross has one. You can also do a blended course, which is where you take the instructional portion online, and then if you reach out to an area instructor, for us, you could reach out to either one of us. You can then come in and do the hands-on portion. There is an additional fee for that to cover the online portion and then in-person skills set. But that is another option if your schedule is limited or if you prefer to learn at your own pace instead of in a group class setting.
And just remember, the class on July 25th is not for healthcare providers. That's a separate course. So Carrie and I have taught together for years and years and years, and we'll have a lot of nurses or physical therapists or other people that need it for their license renewal. This does not count for healthcare providers, but teachers, this does count for a teacher, your renewal for your teaching license as well.
And how young can they come?
So I do CPR starting at 7th grade. Anybody who's younger than 7th grade, they have a really hard time with our mannequins doing chest compression. So my kind of recommendation is anybody who's 7th grade and older would be perfect to take a CPR class. Our 6th graders just don't have enough upper body strength yet to do compressions on the mannequins, because as you notice, these are high fidelity mannequins and they'll respond to you. And I don't know if you could see that when I was doing chest compressions, the mannequin was responding to me. And with my years of doing this, that 6th graders just can't get the mannequins to respond.
We would ask if there's a child attending an adult plan to stay,
Yeah, very much
just for
so.
safety reasons.
That leads me to the other question. Now they have the county health department on here. Could people, you mentioned churches, schools, can they call you?
Well, very much so. I do tons. Karen and I do tons of stuff. Go out, and I have mannequins that we can go out to different organizations. Actually, I have some organizations scheduled that I'm going out to certify them in CPR in the next few weeks.
Again, we are available to answer any questions you might have. Please feel free to throw those in the chat if you have any. And while we wait for those, I will bring up contact information for both Jim and Carrie. Again, both available to come and to teach your youth group or church, any other organization that you might have that you would like to all learn CPR together. And then we'll also get into the upcoming webinars we've got coming up here. July, believe it or not, our kids are going back to school here very shortly. Is a great time to think about back to school immunizations. We'll have somebody with us from the Hamilton County Health Department as well as the State Health Department to talk about the importance of back to school vaccinations, which ones are necessary, where you can get them, and how do you prepare your kids if they're anxious about getting vaccines. What are some tips for making it a little less scary? We'll also be talking about backpack safety in August. What's too heavy? I think with the advent of computers, now kids aren't carrying nearly as many books as they used to. I remember feeling like a pack mule going to school every day. But we'll talk about the importance of packing those backpacks in a way it's not going to injure your children. September, we're talking about teen dating violence. October, HPV awareness and vaccines. November, vaping. Is your child vaping? How can you tell if they are? And then in December, we'll talk about the importance of lead testing in your home. So if you're interested in participating in any of these upcoming webinars, just go to the Hamilton County Health Department's website, click on the health education button, and then the children's webinar tab. I'm not seeing any questions. Barring any other questions, please, I'm going to put Jim and Carrie's contact information up here again. Feel free to reach out to them after the webinar with any questions that you might have. We also recorded this presentation, so we're happy to share it on our social media sites first thing in the morning. If there was someone who wanted to be here and couldn't, or if you're watching and thought it was someone who might benefit from seeing this, please by all means share it with them. But that's it for us for the evening, unless you guys have any parting words.
So one thing I would just say with CPR, I've been a CPR instructor forever and ever and ever, and something to understand is you never know when you're going to need to use these skills. So a quick example, I was on vacation in Wisconsin last week, and I had to use, I'm so an EMS provider, and also I had to use my EMT skills, and I never thought on vacation that I would have to use my EMS skills. So you just never know what situation you're going to be in that you may have to use these skills. So I'm just very adamant that to get as many people through a CPR class as we can.
Excellent. We appreciate the time you all took tonight to be part of this webinar. Again, you'll be able to find it first thing tomorrow morning on our social media sites. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.